Deeper Than Music Radio. Behind every great song is a greater story.
Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music.
Hello. I'd like to say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, listening to us on the many great podcasting platforms that we're on. Deeper Than Music, behind every great song, there's an even greater story. Today we have a very special treat. This guy's a director. He's from one of my favorite towns in the world. I used to be stationed at NES Lemoore when I was in the Navy, out in the San Joaquin Valley, and my place of paradise was San Luis Obispo. He started off writing short stories and making horror movies with his friends. He was also a bass player and a DJ producer. Shortly after that, he moved to Los Angeles, where he worked for the Travel Channel and also the Food Network, which led to him being a writer-director and getting his first credit at Night Terrors. So not only from doing Night Terrors, he also has a movie out called For the Love of Jessee. Ladies and gentlemen, we have director, and also he was a producer as well. We have David McAbee, ladies and gentlemen, here on Deeper Than Music Radio. David, how you doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
No, not a problem, man. I like the fact that you were from San Luis Obispo, man. That was my and we talked earlier about the San Joaquin Valley, and that was my first duty station when I was in the Navy. So when I found out I was being stationed in NES Lemoore, California, I thought, as everybody thinks, you think California, you think Southern California, and I was in for a rude awakening.
Yes, most people are when they're not from I've traveled all around the country, and they're like, oh, you're from California. Like they think it's all one big beach, think it's all one big Hollywood, but it's you go out to the San Joaquin Valley, you are in for a rude awakening. That is not the California that you were raised to believe.
Yeah, it is funny because I was like, how did I go from to live and die in LA to Green Acres? Like, how did this happen?
Yeah, man, that's a mighty jump.
Oh man. So I wanted this. I noticed that you first started off writing short stories and making horror movies. So you knew from a young age that this was what you wanted to do, movies and horror movies.
It's the only thing I've ever really been good at. I mean, that's probably even up for debate, but that's how I got through school. Was, hey, instead of writing a paper, can I do a short film about whatever we're learning? Okay, fine, McAbee, whatever you want, just get it done.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And I imagine so your parents were very supportive of your love of art and film.
I think they were supportive, but also cautious, just like any other set of good parents. Is like, you're gonna go try and do what to make money and make a living? Like, that's not a job. Let's And then finally one day, hopefully, it becomes a job, and then they see the full picture. So, but yeah, they were supportive. They knew that that's all I've ever wanted to do, is either play music, make movies, be creative. I can't sit still. I can't sit in an office. So I'm always going. It's got to be creative. I got to keep moving.
Yeah, and I find it cool. Like, so you were also a touring bass player and a radio DJ and producer. So as far as touring, what tours did you do, or how was that?
Yeah, man, that was great. So I started off right out of college. I got a job as a radio DJ back when that was a thing, like old school radio.
Yeah.
Not internet radio, which we're all accustomed to now, but old school radio, FM. And I was a DJ on there and produced a morning show. And then while at the same time, I was a bass player in a few bands. And I was just a hired gun, and I thought that's where my life was heading, was just to be a musician and be on the road and do that. And it was fantastic. It was lovely. I loved it. I loved playing music and playing different styles of music. I was in a country band, and then I was in like this cafe acoustic band with a female lead singer. And then I was in my own band where I helped write and we toured a little bit, put out a record. Nothing that ever really did much, but it was fun. It was something fun to do to spread my wings and be creative.
Yeah. Yeah. So I feel like you're a creative soul. Like you have to create, and that's pretty cool. And also, I see that when you moved to Los Angeles, you worked for like two of the greatest networks, man, the Travel Channel and the Food Network. How was that experience? How was that?
It was fun. It is fun. But working for Food Network, you pack on a few pounds. You got to learn to say no from time to time.
Yeah.
But it's good, man. Like it was just like being in a band. As far as like touring goes, just a lot harder. So directing TV and producing TV on the road is it's a trip, but it took me all around the world and got to meet a lot of cool people. And one day I kind of just woke up. It's a buddy of mine had written a short, and I was like, well, if he can do it. Like I've always been writing. Why don't you just try it? That's the whole reason you moved down to LA. Yeah. As much fun as Travel Channel is and the Food Network and then all of that affords to pay the bills, like you can still write your own thing. So I wrote a few things, and luckily Night Terrors stuck, and that was my first venture on my own, writing and directing and producing, casting that and getting an amazing cast. It was a hell of a time.
Well, yeah, and you had like Lorene Landon from Maniac Cop, and then Jack Chisholm. So how was that process? Because I mean, you out the gate, you did Night Terrors, and you had some pretty heavy hitters. Like, how was that to cultivate and bring that all together? Coming from
dude, it was a trip. Let me just put it that way. Like, first of all, I'm a young at heart punk rocker, so when I hooked up with Jack from TSOL, and he dug the script, and he wanted to play the role of Mr. Larry, I was stoked. But on top of that, I'm a child of the 80s and the 90s and horror movies and VHS, and I grew up with Maniac Cop. I grew up with Hundra. I grew up with Yellow Hair. Like, I know Lorene Landon.
Yeah.
And I shot a documentary like 10 years ago when I first moved to LA, and she was one of the subjects in this documentary. And we kind of stayed in contact over the years, and I wrote Night Terrors, and I was like, you know what, I'm just going to send it to her, see what she thinks. She loved the script, she loved the role, and she immediately signed on. And honestly, thanks to her, it's why it got to kind of where it is, because she fell in love with the character, but it also took me along with her to promote it, and took me to conventions, and that's what really kicked down the door for me to kind of make the next move.
Yeah, and it all came together nicely. So with all your career, all that you've done, because I mean you're a creative, what has been like the biggest challenge, like an aspect of everything that you do?
All of it. It's all challenging. I mean, there's not one part of it that isn't challenging. If it's not the writing process, which I love, it's trying to get something funded, trying to get someone to read it, trying to get someone to sign on to it, trying to get someone to back it. And then once you get that, trying to get all the parts together, trying to find a DP, trying to find good producers, trying to find an editor. There's not one part of it that is easier than the next. Personally, I love the writing part the best, because that's the one part in the whole movie making process where it's just me, where it's just my decision. It's just, I get to, from blank page to fade out, it's just what I want. And
you know what
changes.
What you just said, I didn't think about it, and the way you worded it, I was like, you know what? So you write the script, then you have to sell the script. Get people sold on it. Then I seem like every process you have to like do something, because you hear all these stories, right? Of like Everybody Wants a Friday, or like Bad Boys 3 finally came out, but you hear about, oh yeah, we got this person attached to it. Then it collapses, and then it's in limbo.
Yep.
So the way you explain it is you have to sell every aspect of putting it together. Wow.
You have to sell every aspect, and then more than once, because just like Bad Boys 3, like I've been waiting for Bad Boys 3. It's funny you bring that movie up, because I just watched it for the first time last night, but I've been waiting for Bad Boys 3 for 10 years.
Yeah.
Like, I've wanted Bad Boys 3. Like, I love those movies. They're so much fun. I mean, they're ridiculous, but they're so much fun. They're funny. They're full of action. It's bloody. It's full of life. Like, it's the whole nine.
Yeah.
But I've been waiting for that one forever. But it's the same process. Those guys had a script that was ready like 10 years ago, and then so and so dropped out, and then they couldn't get that guy, and then they didn't like the script that time, so they got to rewrite it. It's a hell of a process.
And then, like you said, like with Michael Bay wasn't attached to it, and it's like, all right, is this going to be action packed? But then, I mean, it came out real well. I was happily surprised.
Yeah, so was I. I saw that when I knew that he wasn't directing it. I think he produced it though too, which is good. So he's still attached. But yeah, man, I was pleasantly surprised last night.
So, on the flip side, like, what has been the most rewarding aspect of your career?
Most rewarding. That one's a little harder. Hopefully, I think just that people enjoy your stuff. Enjoy. Like, people really seem to like Night Terrors. Like, that was a really cool thing. And then that's kind of what got me on to For the Love of Jessee. And just like watching people react to stuff. We went to a festival. My lady and I went to a film festival 2 weekends ago and watched Night Terrors. It was in another film festival. And to watch it on the big screen, it's cool to hear the people laugh at the funny stuff and to cringe at the gory stuff and to kind of take that journey. Sure, it's only 15 minutes long, but to hear the reactions, I think that's the best part.
Yeah. And then for the Love of Jessee, and what was your approach to making this movie? And I mean, what was the takeaways from your previous experience when you cultivated this film?
Let me tell you, For the Love of Jessee has been a labor of love, a labor of indigestion, a labor of heartburn, a labor of all of it. So this one, For the Love of Jessee, was my first. So the beginning of it is I met this producer a few years back, and she had this idea for a movie, and she pitched it, and I said, "Yeah, it's great." She said, "Well, if you write it, you can direct it, and let's see if we can do it." So I signed on, and it was a very it was challenging for me because I'm an action guy, I'm a horror guy, but like you strip horror away, it's usually just a good dramatic piece, and then you stack on the fright from there.
Yeah,
I think any good horror movie is a good drama, unless it's a comedy, but it's a good drama at the heart. So it was a task to write this with my producer. It's her story, and I would send draft after draft, and she would approve it or disapprove, and we would go back and forth for a number of months. It took us a long time to get that script to where we wanted it to be, and then finally, once we got it locked down, it was we were about to go. Like, let's go make this thing. The money is in the bank. Let's go. And they, some of our financiers had to pull the string at the last minute, so it was a no-go at that point. So I took the script and I was like, well, since I own the script, I'm going to just put it in a whole bunch of festivals just to see if it does well. And it did pretty well in some writing festivals. And then once people saw that it was doing well in festivals, financiers got back on board, and we got to make a movie.
So you just brought up a good point too as well. So the power of film festivals can help bring a film to light or give it the traction that it needs.
Yeah, and I think every story is different, obviously, but in this instance, yeah, I mean, of course, films go to festivals all the time and become blockbuster hits. Now, that's not our movie necessarily, but the script did well enough in a few festivals that people are like, "Oh, I have faith in that now. Here we go. Let's put our money where our mouth is and go make a movie."
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. And so who influences you? Like, what are your influences? I feel like, especially with horror movies, I always wonder, like, who influenced Stephen King to, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right. Again, like I was saying earlier, I'm a child of the 80s and the 90s. So watching the 90s boom of independent film was huge on me. Swingers, specifically. Watching
oh my goodness,
Jon Favreau and Doug Liman make that movie, I was like, oh, that's just a guy who wrote a movie about his friends. That's all it is.
Yeah.
I was like, I can do that. I can't write Star Wars. I can tell you that much. I can't write avatar. That's not who I am. But I could write something like Swingers, and I took my head back to that time. I was like, strip all the stuff away, strip all the horror away, strip it all away, and that's how we made Jessee. But as far as influences go, you pick a good movie from the 90s and look at that writer director, and I'm sure that guy influenced me. But specifically, Jon Favreau, Doug Liman, Kevin Smith, obviously Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez. Those are the staples. But the 90s independent boom was where I was like, oh, I can do that. I can write stories like that.
Wow. Yeah, because when you said 90s, I think of like Miramax films, that like the first thing that pops in my head. And then, of course, like Quentin Tarantino. I mean, when I first saw Pulp Fiction, the whole style, everything was different, like game changers back then.
Blew me away. I was like, this isn't real. Like, how do you think of this? How do you... And yeah, it blew my mind, and it still does today. I mean, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood blew my mind.
Oh yeah. I recently saw that. Yeah, it was a pretty good film. And then the Kill Bill series.
Come on! Yeah, I mean, they're just so good.
And then you make me think of like Samuel Jackson. I don't know if you noticed, but what's circulating around the internet now is he has a book that he's narrating called "Stay at Home, MF."
Yeah, I'd read that. Yep.
Yeah, so and then I mean like Pulp Fiction, and then his characters, Jackie Brown.
So good.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you also, like, David, what is in I know with this unfortunate coronavirus, like production studios, everything in life has slowed down. But after this hump, like, what does the future hold for you as far as film wise and creative?
Well, I've got a new short, a new horror short that should be coming out soon. We filmed it the end of 2019, which stars an amazing actresses in For the Love of Jessee for a minute. But this short, it stars her. The short is called Nova, stars Kelly Kula, and it was my take on transformation horror. Like, think of American Werewolf in London, like where you see him transform into the werewolf. But I wanted to, in my head, I was like, I want to watch that in one take. How can we see that happen all in one take? So we watched this doctor kind of transform into this lifeless monster. I don't want to give the whole thing away, but it's a one take transformation horror.
Wow. And you also brought up American Werewolf in London. I'm like a big Michael Jackson fan. John Landis. Did you also appreciate John Landis and the whole, like, see you next Tuesday or see you next Wednesday? It was like a scene that was always in all his movies and stuff.
Oh, I mean, watching the Michael Jackson music video for Thriller. I mean, as a kid, I was probably like 6 or 7 when that came out, and I was like, what? Like, it's kind of scary. Yeah. Like, the song is good. Don't get me wrong. The album's amazing. But the music video, I remember as a kid going like, oh yeah, should it be this scary? Should I be this weirded out?
Yeah, no, it was a scary. And then the monster at the end, and then the part with the guy, this black slime or whatever he had coming out of his mouth. Man. Yeah. Oh wow.
So that's the plan with that. I just finished a feature length script for Nova, and we'll start taking that out soon. I've got another script that we're shopping around called Hyena, which I wrote it for the star of For the Love of Jessee, Mandala Rose, because I want to work with her again because she's an amazing actor. Okay. So I wrote this script for her, and we're out shopping that around. And hopefully Jessee, For the Love of Jessee, will do well enough where people have faith in us and can let us make another movie.
Oh man, no, I'm pretty sure they will. Back on your days at the Travel Channel and the Food Network, did you go to out of the travel? Have you been, courtesy of the Travel Channel, to any exotic location, and then the Food Network? Get to hear or eat anything interesting?
Yes. Well, my favorite place that the TV has taken me so far is Alaska. Okay. Alaska is by far my favorite place. Other than San Luis Obispo County, Alaska is my favorite place in the world. It's just the real deal last frontier. I mean, I was on a hike and there were just bears like 50 yards away. Bears, like it's gnarly. Bears, dude. Bears, like real
so
bears.
You were just hiking
like,
and there bears. Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's
yeah,
pretty...
and like people were just like cool with it. Like they're just like, oh, they're just bears. And I was like, yeah, where's the cage? Like, why are we just cool with this? Why am I just all right with a bear? But it's the real deal last frontier, man. And like hiking on glaciers. Like it's otherworldly.
Wow.
I've had a lot of bad food too along the way. I mean, I filmed a lot at county fairs, and if I have one more piece of fried food, I think my body's going to disintegrate.
Yeah, like what was that guy, Dave Attell? I know he had a show, and that was, and then like Anthony Bourdain, rest in peace. I thought he had the coolest job in the world with no reservations, and oh my goodness,
Bourdain was legit, man. That dude, I mean, just the way he saw the world, the way he traveled, and he also thought what I liked about him. To travel, like go out there, experience something new, get out of your comfort zone, go see something, go talk to people, because we're so inundated, especially now, to not leave. You know, before Corona it was like that too, though. It was, you know, people get afraid to travel, afraid to get out of their comfort zones, and Bourdain was like, go see what's out there. It's okay, go have a little bit of food that you've never tried before.
Oh yeah,
go shake that guy's hand, go have a conversation, go share a drink.
And the cool thing about it, he had that New York attitude, and he was so open minded. And then he would even, challenge the norm, which was cool.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what people need, man. Challenge yourself. Yeah. And that, to tell you the truth, that's what Jessee was for the love of Jessee was for me. It was challenge myself to write this thing. And like I was saying before, it was a challenge from the get-go. I mean, once we got the script approved and financed and ready to go, I had written it for a good friend of mine, Blake Heron. I had written the main character for him, and he was ready to go to play that. And then 3 weeks before we were to start production, 3 weeks before we were to hit cameras on the ground, he unfortunately passed away.
Oh, man.
So the producers asked me
Deeper
if
Than
we
Music
should
Radio.
keep going, and I had to sit on that for a long time, because I wrote a script for a friend for a specific role, and then like, how do you change that overnight? Like, do you? Is it okay? And like the personal struggle with that, and eventually, obviously, we decided to continue, but I had to rewrite the script, change the character's name, change a lot about the character, because I was writing it for a lot of Blake's mannerisms and his attitude. And luckily we got an amazing actor, Randy Wayne, to jump on literally at the 11th hour. And hopefully once people see the film, we'll see what an amazing job he did. And that guy, again, came in at the 11th hour and killed it. And not only killed it, but I feel the chemistry between him and Mandala, like, because that was the thing. I wrote it for Blake and Mandala, because they had this really just great chemistry, and Randy came on and killed it. Had great chemistry with Mandala, and she brings tears to my eyes every time I watch her in this role. And like I said, the struggle was real.
Man, and that's awesome. And you speak to another thing as well, like, because movies take time, and then unfortunately things happen, and people pass on. And I've always wondered, like, how do you fill that void when somebody passes on? And like you said, one of the characters, you have to reshuffle and you have to rebuild and like, you wrote a script for a year, like, oh man, I got to go back to the drawing board. Wow. Mm-hmm. That's
yeah.
Who I could imagine that was a daunting task, but you made it happen.
Yeah, we made it happen, and not to say without an amazing crew. Like, I couldn't have done it, one, without the support of my amazing now fiance, who's read every script and has watched me complain and whine about every step of the process, but also amazing crew from our DP, David Smith, amazing, our amazing producers, Kurta and Dennis Schlarbaum, my post team, Miguel Amodio, I killed it. Like, it was the team that really brought this crazy puzzle together. Sure, I wrote it. Sure, I was on the ground directing, but none of it would be possible without those other people.
Wow. And what do you say to somebody like how you looked up to the 90s and how you looked up to the people that influenced you? Say like somebody listening to the interview or somebody following your career and be like, I want to be just like David McAbee. What advice would you give them to somebody aspiring to be a filmmaker? What would be your advice to them, green and wanting to step into the career field that you're in?
Don't wait. Just do it. I felt like I waited too long. You know, I feel like I've always said this to my fiance. Is like I always feel like I'm 7 years behind. Like I should have started a lot younger. I should have instead of trying to be a musician, even though I knew I wanted to write, like to go do the thing. And then like if you got the itch to write, if you got the itch to direct, just do it. You can literally do it now. Like our phones are 4K compatible. Like you can shoot a 4K movie on your phone now. Go do it.
Well, yeah.
There's nothing stopping you today.
You got the technology, and like you say, from the 90s, it was VHSs, those big cameras. Now
big cameras. You got to rent them, or you got to like ask a friend's parents. Like, I swear I'm not going to break it this time. Just let me borrow it for a day. Getting fake blood in all the gears or whatever it is, man. It was a lot harder than that. But my advice to myself and to anyone who cares is just do it. If you got the itch, scratch it.
Wow. And then my last question, again, thank you for taking the time for being on the show. Another great interview. Shameless promotion time. Where can people find you, your movies? Where are you at in the world of the internet and technology and social media?
Yeah, the social media realm. I mean, I've got a couple accounts. I don't check them that often, but you can please follow me on Facebook. It's David McAbee. On Instagram, it's the McAbee Face. But most importantly, please check out For the Love of Jessee. May 1st comes out iTunes, Amazon, Google, Christian Cinema, PureFlix. And then later it will be coming out to Target, Best Buy, and Walmart on DVD. Remember those things? DVD, you can actually still buy those. So please, you can even like buy a physical copy, which would be awesome. But May 1st, For the Love of Jessee. Check it out.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Another great interview. David McAbee, and May 1st, For the Love of Jessee. David, thank you for being on the show and telling us that, your inspiration, new movie coming out, and your whole journey through your awesome career.
No, thank you for the plug, man. Thank you for your time, and thank you for staying safe and still taking the time to do this, even though we're all locked up. But hey, no one's got anything better to do. Watch good movies.
Yes, please do. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mark Nias with special guest David McAbee signing off here on Deeper Than Music Radio.
Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music. The core of you, the fans, the truth is deeper than music. Deeper than music. Simply the truth is the latest, the newest. It's deeper than music. Deeper than music.